Happy Friday, Kai Van Bodie.
Same to you,
Yeah,
Emily.
happy Friday, replay viewers. Because it's just you and me and Kai hanging right now. And then our live viewers start to come in. Say hello once you get here, everybody. Uh, Kai, your inner teacher got inspired. Picking up where we left off in the last episode, we were talking about our own personal experience with identity shift, like how we're being called into the next step of our vision and what we're doing about it. And we're talking about how we get the body on board. And your inner teacher got so inspired, you brought slides to today's show, didn't you?
I did. And, I was just on a call with a friend of mine that Raj.
I do know, Raj.
And it's so good to have another human who knows you deeply, who you trust fully, because basically what happened on the call was that basically he asked me what I needed. And then as I told him what I needed, I gave myself what I needed.
Yeah.
And it happened 2 times. And then the last time, whatever the slides are is what they are. And when you're ready, at whatever point it makes sense, I want to retranslate what comes most recently from the Aramaic interpretation of some of the deeper teachings of mystical Christianity from a nervous system lens. But it is the answer. Whatever's on the slides is what's on there, but there's also an answer that is going to weave in and out of that I just literally spoke out to Raj, and I probably can do it again. And so at some point, I want to break it down.
Rad. So you got super activated, and your teacher, first of all, got inspired, and you whipped out a slide presentation. And then your preacher got inspired as you started preaching to yourself through Raj as he was holding space and asking you questions.
That's it.
Good stuff. Well, man, people who are showing up for this live stream or replay are about to get blasted, y'all. Well, I'd love to just bring us in because I feel like me too. I'm ready to get blasted. I want it. I need it. I noticed this morning, Kai, within 5 minutes of waking up, I was crying. I was in tears. So I'm like, okay, this is information. Let me lean in more. Regret, mom guilt coming in, things that I don't have any power over right now other than to get the data and figure out how I'm going to be different, right? I cried for probably a good 7 minutes, and then my human remembered, oh, no, wait, this isn't me. This is just information. This is informing me. And so I started to really check in with myself deeper and see what pain was present. Now, in it, simultaneously to me feeling this way this morning, I talk to my dad every morning, and he checks in on what's going on with my week and how my clients are doing. And he asked me some reflection questions that allowed me to see at what level I was serving my clients this week and just how many clients I had been serving. In fact, I got on a call this morning and I asked the lady, I said, hey, have you ever had your Akashic records open before? And she goes, yeah, a couple months ago. And I was like, oh, well, how'd it go? I guess it went well because she came back. Although it's data that I'm collecting that my nervous system is on overload. I'm registering, I'm going into negative old patterns, like the gravity, the pain points of life. And I know what's happening. So I get to show up and use my skills here. I get to rely on my friends and colleagues. So I'm excited to receive from you today because I know the medicine. It's reprogram the nervous system, do the work so that your nervous system can hold the frequency. And I can truly see who I am as well. Because the identity of Emily, we're all here fully present, ready to show up in our soul. And a lot of times it's just our human that's not seeing it or not giving us credit or being too hard on us, right? That was one of my big takeaways from the power of our last time together too, when we were in the records, and you were calling forward the essence and the energy around just being enough. Right. So that's how I'm seeing it all come to fruition in my life, and excited to keep working on it with you and everybody else out here today. Say hi once you get here, by the way.
Thank you for sharing. I mean, part of what I love about the chapter of my life that I'm in and yours as well, you've always been a pillar of this, is that you carry a wisdom tradition and a technology, and you're able to repeatedly transmit it to people and witness it bless their lives and change their lives. And at the same time, you bring your human to it all. and there's not it's not performative, even though there's a skill and there's a performer in you.
Definitely so.
But you always bring the real stuff. So what I'd love to do, first of all, whether we get to the slides or not, it doesn't matter. I want to reflect back. So just a big picture, Emily and I in like a week, 10 days, are leaving on a trip to Shasta. And there's still a couple spots open, and I am with great pride saying, fill these last 3 spots, because this is going to be a trip of a lifetime. Not only the adventure and the beauty and the initiates that are there, these wisdom keepers that we're going to tune in with and sit with in deep, intimate dialogue, and the ceremonies and the medicines like cacao and the water. Not only is all that awesome, but we're bringing a code of awakening that we can all implement that is echoes in almost every wisdom tradition. And of course, if it's actual universal truth, you can put the lens of neuroscience on it and it should still work. And in fact, it does. And that's what we're going to get into today. So could I reflect back on your morning this morning?
Yep, absolutely.
All right. So the first step in the code of awakening is number 1, to realize that there is a guiding field of intelligence, and it doesn't matter if you call it God or Tao or the quantum field or synchronicity. There is an always-on field of energy that is super intelligent, and that field will guide us. But as the first part of this initial the first code is, we've got to find home in our breath. Because if we just look at the breath as oxygen, and we go neuroscience, the fastest way to bring safety into the body, and safety, by the way, leads to capacity, is through conscious breath work, conscious breathing. And this is in every wisdom tradition, right? And so if we know that our breath is our first and last possession, and we find our home in our breath, then the guiding field has a chance to reach us. So somewhere in your morning of waking up, and by the way, I love that, because the longer I've done, work with psychedelics and medicine work, one of the really fascinating things is as a medicine journey is winding down, like there's usually the moment where I or a client or someone in the group goes, "Oh my God, are we coming down from the peak?" And then there's like, "Can I have more medicine? I need more medicine. Can I get another dose? Is this the peak? There's like this anxiety of clinging to the peak experience, right? Mm-hmm. But then as you're integrating, whether it's the day of or the day after or the month after, just like Emily waking up this morning, we all go through twice a day. As we wake up in the morning, before we're fully awake, there's a doorway or a window to observe the default mode network climbing back in. Am I a good mother? What are my regrets? And then Emily, whether she used her breath or not, she allowed emotions to flow from it. Mm-hmm. She allowed herself to feel. That's one of the other codes of awakening. We must process emotion first before we try to get into logical strategy. Because if you give emotions the spaciousness to breathe and express in a safe and healthy way, then they will always lead to higher cognitive function and better decisions. Almost all the bad decisions that you've made and I've made and we've made come when the emotions have hijacked our ability to hear the field, to hear the signal. So you allowed the emotions to come through. So this morning, you've already demonstrated at least 2.
Yeah, well, I would even call them stages of alchemy, because the stage 1 is the calcination. That's the explosion or whatever's happening, right? For me, it was the default networks coming back online and giving me information that I did not like. And then stage 2 of alchemy, this is the dissolution stage. So stage 1 is a fire stage. Usually, it's a catalyst. Something has erupted. Stage 2 is where you need a good cry. There's debris everywhere in the field because everything's all mixed up from the explosion, right? And what does the good cry or the water element do? it comes in and it brings us into stage 3, where we've got the density. It's stage 3 separation. We've got the density on the bottom. We've got the neutrality, the situation that happened in the middle. And then we've got the truth, or the essence, on top. And that's when we can extract the truth, or the essence, right? But yeah, I can see how in our different languaging, yeah, I'm working through the steps, y'all. That's what I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other part that's been emergent in all this is this, the redundancy of my inquiry is, no one will convince me that there isn't a miraculous nature to this universe. That I've had so many things in my life. I would say most of the success in my life has come through miracles.
Ooh, cool.
It's the moments that I decided to give it all up and just follow my heart, that then career opened up, money opened up, relationships opened up. And in that other time, I was trying to do or be or have some program that I'd got from somebody else. Mm-hmm. So you can't convince me that miracles don't exist. I believe they do, whether we call them quantum or synchronicity. The bottom line is there is a higher level of intelligence that has a bigger picture. And when that intelligence downloads, it seems magical, even though it's really just that high level of the truth that you were talking about, which right under that is neutrality. To be able to access it, you have to clear the deck. So anyway, that's been the whole thrust of my life inquiry, really my whole life. But recently I've just kind of contextualized it in this new way, that there is an architecture to pissing away your miracles and leaking them out the bottom and succumbing to the old program, the old pattern, the old behavior. You don't have to be the self-effacing East Coast higher self that I have, but you're going to have that own voice of your higher self. Let's stop pissing away our miracles, because right now, the more we can rely on 5D reality creation, it's the more likely we are to transcend survival and then to be interested and available to do projects that are actually going to bring in a new earth.
Oh, yes. And I can see, as you preach to me, I can see where I was close to pissing away the miracle of being able to just have the reflection of how much joy and shift and change and magic and happiness that I get to experience with my clients, and adventure. What, Emily? Okay, I'm back on board. Thank you for not letting me piss it away, Kai.
You got it. I mean, it seems like a day in and day out task, but then to go just to in the Taoist tradition, there is a title that some Taoist practitioners get, and that title is an immortal. And an immortal, there's a bunch of definitions for an immortal. Okay, so obviously in almost all the sacred traditions and even in some of the Sumerian texts, there's clearly a time in history where we lived a lot longer. And an immortal is somebody who doesn't wear their body out super quick, and maybe they can live a couple hundred years. We know about the King's List in the Sumerian manuscripts. We know about people in the Bible that had lived hundreds of years. And to bring the science in, because that's just how I work, is like, we now know that with peptides and all these advancements, that there are likely going to be people who have access to live much longer, because we're going to be able. We've figured out how the body shuts off its regenerative process that keeps the DNA fresh and replicating, and there are a multitude of avenues now to rewrite that. And I don't think anything is going to stand in the way of that. Whether it might be expensive and illegal at first, eventually it's going to become pretty common for people. So, okay. So that's one definition of an immortal, someone who lives a really long time. However, in order to live a really long time, you got to find a way to enjoy life. Because if you're controlling, and it's just really hard for the body, because every thought we think and every emotion we feel has an electrical chemical cascade. So the second definition of an immortal is these people, you cannot convince them that there's a problem. And I've brought groups of foreigners into rural villages to meet with these people, and you just can't throw them off of their joy of life and their presence. And you can see that was a learned skill.
Yeah.
They're dealing with different cultures and and they're, I'm putting timetables on them because, hey, I got 12 people here. We need you to come out of your hermitage and talk to us. And the way they deal with it is so beautiful. And so that's another definition of an immortal. And the way I've brought it home in my life is the part of how I witness an enlightened person is they have nothing to complain about. They don't get into drama and bitching and complaining. They just don't do it. And is some of it the way they've structured their life? Yes. Is some of it nervous system regulation? Yes. Is some of it just that they have made a choice, like in a couple of the different mystery schools? You have to have relentless optimism. That's one of the teachings of Rudolf Steiner and the Rosicrucians, is like, you got to have a relentless optimism. See the good in everything. I'm not talking about spiritual bypass. That's why it's relentless.
Right. Yes.
It's real nervous system optimism. Like, that's kind of what you did this morning. You were like, okay, my human is having a human experience, and there's another channel for Emily. And what did that other channel say about getting to have fun with your clients and enjoy your life?
Let's see. Well, the other channel, the first thing that it brought through was just the awareness of, hey, this is just data coming in and you have a choice right here. You can attach yourself to the emotion and feel that going through the body. Like, face and feel is enough. Recognize that it's there. And you can attach to it. It'll affect the rest of your day. Or here's the other thing. I was also very clear. This doesn't feel good. This is not serving me. I don't choose this. So it was like, all right, well, what else is available for me here? And what became available was seeing the opportunity to show up differently with my kids and find like legit next step action steps that I could like reached out to each one of them and, scheduled relationship kind of thing, building things with them. And then it was complete. And then I was able to, although I felt a bit of a residue, I won't deny there was a bit of like a lingering echo that followed me. The sessions lit me up today. I mean, the power of how I get to be present when people's lives change. Oh, it's beautiful. But I noticed this too. One of the challenges that I helped a lady move through, and I can see this theme through maybe not all of my clients, but a good amount of them this week, working through ancestral maternal things, like areas, either areas where our moms fucked us up, or areas where the divine feminine lineage was injured in some way, or there was some trauma that wasn't allowing the full expression of the divine feminine really to come in. And one of the rewrites that we did today was around a lady forgiving her mom for not showing up in her fullness because it wasn't available to the mom at that time. And I was so able to empathize with the mom who's not even here. She's just basically like a character in the story in the session today, right? But this radical connection and humility and witness of what it's like to be a mom and want to show up differently. However, recognize it wasn't available to me at that time. And it allowed me to hold space in a way that brings it full circle, and really allows me to not only forgive myself, but also hold myself to a higher standard and to forgive that energy through all of mothers who have experienced it. So there's an interesting, when I didn't attach to the story of my own regret, I can also see how that also prepared me to show up more fully for my clients this week in a way that I wouldn't have been able to if I was spinning from my own regret.
Oh man, it's part of your signature, Emily, is that, and it's part of what, there's different names for it. One of the ones is the unrelenting alchemist. It's like the job of sifting and sorting is never done. And there's like a self-forgiveness aspect of recognizing that you or your client or your client's mother were doing the best they can with what they understood in their model of reality, their resources, their level of initiation. And we can revisit this whole idea about levels of initiation, because it's not just for people in mystery schools or secret societies. We all either initiate ourselves or not at our own detriment. Because all initiation is to consciously step into a new identity when the old one is worn out. That's all it is. And you could do that with the crocodiles under the Great Pyramid and the waterways. You could do it by going on a vision quest. You could do it. There's a lot of ways to do it. But if you're not doing it, your old identity will wreak havoc in your new identity. And it'll be slow, painful, and messy, which can be beautiful too. But anyway, you don't only work that self-forgiveness, but then you look at, how is this regret a leverage for me to change the way I'm showing up? Mm-hmm. And that's special. That's the antidote to spiritual bypass.
Well, Kuan Yin taught me that actually on a hike to Shasta. I mean, I didn't hike to Shasta. I was in Shasta and I was taking a hike, and I was really struggling with some things. And I called in the masters, and Kuan Yin showed up, and she taught me about turning spiritual debt into spiritual asset. And she said, there's no such thing as debt. Actually, all of the karmic debt that we feel like we're paying, it's going into this universal bank. And once we figure out how to leverage it, we unlock that. All of that we've stored for ourselves gets unlocked and released back onto us.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to get into the Code of Awakening. We're already getting into it, but I want to systematize it for everyone, and maybe we'll do some slides. But Emily, I was listening to last night as part of my self-care as I cooked dinner. I was listening to an interview with a guy who got taken into Telos on the 3-dimensional level. And he was super grounded and super self-effacing. And he was talking about his life leading up and going into a shop in Shasta in the early morning. It was during COVID, so it was pretty recent. And this Japanese woman had all these codes up and these images. And then he ends up going into Telos with a guide. And as he tells the story, whether is it true or not, I don't know. But it sounded true. And there was no fabrication. There was many moments where it was self-effacing in his personal overwhelm, etc. And the point of it was, as he came out, he's realized that he carries these codes that are going to be part of helping people tune in to the new earth and what's coming for us. But he's like a guy that had a corporate background and is very grounded. And one of the things he shared is, as you work through your own personal journey and you free up space to receive the codes of awakening, the codes of the new earth, the codes that are in Shasta, in the electromagnetics and in the portals and the vortexes, which are codes that amplify true human potential. He was saying what you realize, this is building off what you shared, is that, hey, I have been through some really crazy shit in my life. I've survived a lot of stuff, and I figured a few things out from that. And now part of my codes are to help other people going through that same thing at an earlier phase so they can go through it more skillfully, with more peace, more joy, etc. And then, Emily, you've been through some stuff, and that's the beauty of walking with a group, that field of, like, each of us will have strengths and each of us will have blind spots. And if we can all share those codes together, the group is like a richer genetic pool to move through the initiation in Shasta, or to move through your life with your men's group or your mastermind. Like, that's the point, is to share our codes and to turn that spiritual debt into spiritual asset. Because as we share it, we're less likely to get drawn back into it. As we help someone else move through it, it reinforces, I'm not going to do that again. Because, these traumas and these patterns will show up even as we climb the spiral staircase of our life, assuming we have a good cultivation practice like the Code of Awakening. We'll keep spiraling up, but the central pillar of our life story, it'll be roughly the same essence. It's just a matter of, am I going to spiral at the same level, like a merry-go-round, or am I going to spiral up, or sadly, am I going to spiral down?
Wah, wah.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
Right. No downward spirals. You know what I've recognized as one of my transmission is when we all come together like this, and I get to add the Emily special sauce,
What's that?
It's the big dreamer. Because I realized, like, growing up small town Missouri, right on the Mississippi River, and then going to Hollywood to like play big, that's definitely one thing that I feel like I bring into the field is not only the invitation to do that, but like the codes. Like I've walked that path before. So when we're all together, I can like shoot everybody with those codes. With it, it's almost like sharing a level of intelligence and experience energetically that helps advance us faster. What would you say your secret sauce is in terms of like a secret superpower sauce, Kai?
Oh, I would rely more on you to tell me what it is.
Okay, I know you want to teach the code of awakening, so maybe I'll let you teach the code of awakening.
Yeah,
I'll
let's
stop interjecting so much.
let
and
me
I'll figure out what your superpower is.
yeah, let me just drop it in without the slides, and if we need the slides, we'll do it later. But let's just drop it in. So, freshly, this comes from the looking at the Aramaic language that Jesus, or as he's called in his own native language, Yeshua taught, and looking at the Beatitudes. When I was 20, 21 years old, and I was in college and just finishing college, I finally got into a deep spiritual awakening that really isolated me from everybody because I was in a fraternity. And, you know, it was not easy to go to the bar with the Tao Te Ching, and my bros were like, dude, what the fuck, dude? Just shut up and drink a beer. Anyway, so I remember reading then about this, and I remember, I never forgot, they said, in the Beatitudes, which are the blessed are the poor in spirit, for they shall inherit the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. And I'm not going to go into then there's the righteous and those who mourn, and then the peacemakers, etc., etc. And then the final one is those who have stones cast upon them and are criticized by society, right? And there's a certain traditional mainstream interpretation that, to say it the kindest, is inaccurate and disempowering. And I'm not going to step around it anymore because it's part of the world we live in, ladies and gentlemen. It's in a world of illusion where so often, especially in the mainstream, you get 50 or 60% truth and then you get 40% distortion. And that keeps us at a certain level of consciousness. And that's been true throughout the ages. Jesus didn't come to be a Jew. He came to put a template in for human potential. Buddha didn't come to be a Buddhist. He came into the Hindu tradition that was rife with caste system manipulation, and he changed it. Lao Tzu came to China during a time of deep turmoil, and emperors just take. I mean, it's the same story over and over, and then some person is sent to demonstrate human potential. Mm-hmm. And the majority of what they teach, self-love, forgiveness, meditation, prayer, it's the same teaching. As one of my Sufi teachers shared, if you put a mystic of Christianity and a mystic of Islam and a tantric Buddhist and a Taoist, and you put them at the same table and a Christian, they would have nothing to argue about. They would just exchange notes on how to experience God.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what's being held back. And can you just imagine, if I can just be on the soapbox for another minute, mm-hmm. Can you imagine if it was normal in our culture that one Sunday a month you had a panel at your church where there was a Christian and a Muslim and a Buddhist and a Taoist, and they did a panel discussion on the similarities and the strength of each tradition? I mean, this is where history was at in northern India, where India met China. Every year in Dunhuang, up in northwestern China, you had Christians and Muslims and Taoists and Buddhists meeting and dialoguing and discussing. It was phenomenal. And they were all better for it. Nobody needed to be right about anything. It was like, who can demonstrate the deepest access to connection with the divine? So that's what the Code of Awakening is about. And so,
yeah, and we get to enact that, embody that. It's Shasta.
That's right.
I mean, when I first learned how to read the Akashic records and realized that everyone, in essence, on the planet can do this, and you talked about that field of intelligence around us, right? This is what I always saw is coming into Mount Shasta with other visionaries, thought leaders, difference makers, and doing our thing to tap in and connect to God and channel the wisdom and be present with the masters, learn with them, learn from our extraterrestrial friends. And we're doing it. We're creating it. We're being it.
Yes. Yeah, life is so much more magical than part of the game of the Matrix is just to get us so caught up in survival that we forget that life is magical.
Yeah.
So I'm going to drop the code in without the slides and without going too deep into any Aramaic. And truthfully, this is ancient future wisdom, right? Universal wisdom. It shows up in every culture, every religion. So I believe this is one of those. So the first code is that our breath is our access point to the present moment. Mm. And as soon as we get disconnected from our breath, we are going to be disconnected from possibility and synchronicity. So, blessed are the poor in spirit, for they shall inherit the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is among us, within us, and around us. And between us. That's the only preposition in Aramaic. And it's a feminine gendered word, and it has to do with a state of consciousness where we look around and we feel inspired to make a difference, and circumstances rise to meet us, and we have this inner saying of I can. And you found your way back to that. My whole life for the last 6 months since I came out of the dark tunnel has been staying in the I can. I can. There's always an I can if you can find it. So that's step one. So we find our breath and we take back control of our nervous system through slow, present breathing. And there's a slightly deeper principle here. In Aramaic, so often Yeshua teaches us to go back to the beginning. Like, remember where you came from. Like, even on a logical level, we live on a planet, whether it's flat or round, whatever you think it is. I mean, we live on this planet. There's animals, and there's mystery schools, and there's structures on this planet that we can't explain how they were built. There's a beginning, and we're from that beginning. So, how do we begin life? With breath. Our first conscious act was to take a breath when we came out of the womb. So, if we access our breath, we access Joe Dispenza calls it the generous present moment, right? The generous present moment. That's where the 5D abundance happens. All right, second step. So all throughout Shasta, we are going to come back to our breath, and we're going to come back to synchronicity, and we're going to come back to safety in our bodies. All right, step 2. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the gifts of the earth. Meek is someone who can soften what is rigid inside them. Rigid morality, rigid self-judgment, rigid, all those, like the opposite of this, no judgment, is the type A person who has to control everything around them because they don't feel safe. Now, is there benefit to having a clean house and a schedule and a flow? Absolutely. I'm not shitting on that. What I am saying is when that becomes the only way we feel safe, there's very little freedom and enjoyment in life, and it destroys relationships and etc. So if we soften what's rigid, but it also means to soften the armor around our heart, the places we're holding, that's what becomes the diseases. So to make it very contemporary, whether it's somatic experiencing or the Eastern tradition, the fundamental practice of the Eastern tradition of martial arts and Qigong is called standing on a post, holding post. And you stand and you learn to systematically soften and relax your whole body. So as you guys are listening, take a deep breath, lengthen the spine. And then as you exhale, send a wave of release and softness through your body. And then take a conscious breath into your heart. And as you exhale, just literally relax your pectoral muscles, soften your chest. And as you do it again, as you breathe out, focus on the heart and imagine spaciousness, oxygen, energy, love, creating space around the heart. The science is there that this type of a practice can literally prevent a heart attack or a stroke. Right? We soften what's rigid inside with the breath. And then the gifts of the earth, the Aramaic word for earth is Ra, E-R-H-A, in a English transliteration that's easier than some of the academic ones. And every time the word earth is used, it's referring to the soil, the planet, and the fact that our bodies are made of earth. So it's about managing our earthiness. So when we can, and what is in the earthiness? It's the animal, right? It's the need to eat and sleep and want to have sex and want to, drink. All the joys of life that are animal based is our earth. And so when we soften and relax and find our breath, we become less addictive. And then we can receive the gifts of the earth. What are the gifts of the earth? Well, the negative ions from a waterfall. The electromagnetic pulse that comes out of the earth when you're barefoot that allows the cells to function properly and is the opposite of all the disease conditions. The aromatic chemicals that come out of pine trees and aromatic plants that heal the lungs and lift depression. The cold water, right? It's like everything that's in the biohacking community came from nature. Mm-hmm. Red light therapy, sunlight. Negative ions, that's your air purifiers or your oxygen-based therapies. The pulsed electromagnetic frequency, biomats, lay on the freaking earth, homies and sisters, right? It's all there. Now, in forest bathing research from Japan, what they figured out is when they had the students walk through the city and the forest, and with no training, they were always there were more health benefits in the forest. Then they had the people in the forest, these young Japanese college students, walk through, think about their romantic relationships, think about the expectations of their parents, think about all the stuff that stresses out the average human, but with a special angle toward Japanese people who their roles are highly defined. Mm-hmm. And guess what? None of a fraction of the benefits walking through the forest, thinking about test scores, relationships, and parental structures that had them, have them committing suicide at a higher rate than almost any other country. So in order to receive the gifts of the earth, we must soften and open and breathe and relax, and then nature will start to heal us. And this is why when one of the gifts of being in plant medicine is you can lay down and look at a flower for an hour because you see like a whole other dimension of reality. Not that you need plant medicine, but when you slow down, you see the gifts of the earth. Okay. So now that's the second code. So breathe, find the guidance in the field, then soften your body and get into nature. It could even be a visualization if you live on the 12th floor in a city. Could be having plants or tapestries and aromatherapy, but get connected to God through nature because it's healing. And then the third step is to start to witness all the parts of you. Because now that you've softened and opened, you're going to become aware that Emily's not just Emily, Kai's not just Kai. We've got a little boy and a little girl. We got an adult and a wizard. We got a partner and a lover. And sometimes those parts are at odds with each other. Mm-hmm. And when that happens, whether we call it parts work or internal family systems, we're always having gas and break, gas and break, gas and break, because one part wants this, the other part's scared to have it. And that's that deeper work that's very prominent in the coaching industry and psychology. And so this third part, I sometimes say, all parts are welcome. Mm-hmm. And we get to sit with those parts. And that's what we'll do in Shasta. Everyone is going to bring all their parts to Shasta, and we're going to love and heal some parts. We're going to discharge some parts to leave on the mountain that aren't really authentic to us. And then we're going to really amplify the spiritual master parts in each of us from the ceremony and the energy. And as we do this, there will be a need. This is where blessed are those who mourn, to face and feel, right? Emotion first, strategy second. We can't make great decisions on a nervous system that has unprocessed emotions. They'll hijack through the limbic brain and the reptilian brain. So the next part will be to create space for all of us, whether you're coming to Shasta or not. Some of you are coming. You didn't know that yet. You're going to decide in the next couple days. But regardless, you need a space to feel your feelings in a healthy, responsible, skillful way. And there's a myriad of tools. Emily's got them. Grace has them. I've got them. and Jose will just watch and laugh at us from his Mayan timekeeper perspective. Anyway, so if you learn how to feel your emotions, and by the way, this is probably one of the most insidious ones, because the greatest challenge I have with almost all my clients is I can facilitate an emotional discharge or transmutation or alchemy on a call, and then they will quickly hypnotize themselves that they don't have time. There's no safe place. It's not approved of. It's you have to let go of the ego to cry or to rage, but it's a skill, and you can start to feel it beautiful. So then once we faced and felt, we become the peacemaker internally. We start, and this goes back to those Taoist immortals or an enlightened person. One spiritual psychologist said that the spectrum from a schizophrenic multiple personality to an enlightened person, that is the spectrum of human mental health. On one level, all of us have experiences where a part of us takes over and makes poor decisions.
Yes.
And in the schizophrenic, it's literally a different personality with a different blood type, with different allergies. Like all that research has been done. One sub personality has a different blood type on a blood draw than another one. One is allergic to peanuts and their throat starts to close up, and then they get them into the other personality and the histamine response goes away. And this is like mind-body medicine to the nth degree, fully, On the other side is where we've done enough work to finally accept and love all parts. And we start to become an internally peaceful person. And that's what leads us to being able to be peacemakers externally. Because when we've healed all those parts, we're not as triggerable. Mm-hmm. We have courage to speak our truth in a kind way that owns. Sherry wants to know what you're drinking, Emily.
Iced tea, Sherry. It's just a little iced tea in there.
Yep.
Well, my ice melted because it's hot here in Reno.
Sherry's from Canada, and I just, this comedian who is Canadian was making fun of Americans, and he was like, he said Canada is just ice Mexico. Like some American perspective. There's Mexico and then there's ice Mexico. I like to call it Canuckistan. That's my favorite, the Canucks. Anyway, we love our Canadian neighbors to the north. So there we are. We've made peace inside ourselves. And then the next thing that happens is we start to value authenticity, vulnerability, and true self-expression over the approval of others.
Yes.
And that's a huge step. And even for, I think, the most spiritual among us, especially as we become leaders and we have a tribe to lead, we have programs to lead, it can get tricky as spiritual power increases or influence to not get drawn back into wanting to do it right, wanting to get it right, wanting to be liked. But once you've made this peace, and there's that research that floats around on this pain scale where they've measured human emotion, and the highest frequency is authenticity.
Yeah.
Because you've accepted all your parts and you're expressing it. So I'm trying to bring in the science on this. And so now we get to roughly, I might have skipped one or two, but roughly now we hunger for righteousness. We hunger for justice, meaning we value our integrity and our authenticity so much so that we're willing to go to the PTA meeting and talk about something, or we're willing to say, hey, why are the school lunches such shitty food? Or we're willing to go to our men's group or tell our clients something that is risky. But we do it from a place of inner peace. And that ends us up on the last of the Beatitudes, which is something like in the Aramaic, there are always going to be people in the world who see themselves backwards, who haven't done shadow work and haven't integrated. And when someone who sees themselves backwards sees a person in authenticity, it is triggering. And they are going to project, whether that's by going silent and never talking to you again, or it's by sabotaging and gossiping, or it's about attacking you. This is like haters are going to hate. The more you own your divine truth and you value that over the approval of others, you should expect that there is going to be some type of pushback from the consensus reality. And that's a sign you're on the right path. When you get the haters. and you're coming from inner peace, and you're feeling your feelings, and you're connecting to your breath, and you're receiving the gifts of the earth. So this is what the Aramaic says Jesus said when he was teaching the Beatitudes, which, by the way, was to a bunch of, many people right on the Sea of Galilee, the Sermon on the Mount, and they were so traumatized by their life conditions that it only makes sense that it was a somatic teaching, a body-based teaching. He wouldn't have talked to their heads only or just their hearts. He would have spoken to all three levels of a human, the head, the heart, and the body. So we're going to be working that code of awakening all through Shasta, leading up, leading out, so that every one of us has a unique code of awakening practice that works for us, but that touches on each of these pieces of the field.
I'm so excited. I can't wait. Yeah. Did I ever tell you about the time I sat in church on an Easter Sunday and the preacher was preaching the Beatitudes, and Yeshua came in over my left shoulder, and was explaining to me, this is what I really meant with everything, like point by point, that the pastor was sharing. And oh my gosh, it was like chasing the dragon going back to church after that. I was looking for that meet up with Yeshua again in that visceral way. And I haven't quite had the experience like that since then, but it was remarkable. It was amazing.
Yeah. I met a new brother recently, and we were just talking late one night on a porch at a men's retreat, and he was just telling me all about his Catholicism, that he'd gotten really into Catholicism, paying the rosary, and he was sharing his practice. But it was so cool because he is a person that is in our world, has facilitated psychedelic medicine for years, and he's on this experiment in this Catholic tradition. And as he was sharing with me some of the teachings and some of the chanting and the way that the rosary is, because one day he was praying, it goes through a cycle, and so one day he was praying through the morning, all the gifts of the pain of being a human and why that's valuable to an incarnate spirit. And then the next day he was praying the rosary to the joys of being a human. And as he shared with me, even though some of the words I would change, I could feel that the essence was still getting through to him.
Yeah.
But based on, there's a transmission between the words.
Yeah. My whole field is lighting up. That's really, that's something that we get to pay attention to in Shasta too. I love that the space in between, because it's so metaphoric in what it means in our lives. It's also very literal in terms of, the breath, the moments, right, in between our lives where we find the resonance. In Shasta, looking in between the trees, the space, it's all where all of the magic is. And when we go to Shasta this year, Kai, I can totally see how you get to play Jesus for all of us.
Oh God, no.
No, yeah, no. You're totally Jesus. And here's what I'm thinking. You asked me. You said that I got to share my reflection. So I'm just going to share what I'm seeing come through. Is that you're so illuminated in the truth and essence of what Yeshua wanted to bring through, or what we feel like the story that's been hidden, right? And you get to be that voice in this lifetime. So I can totally see how, whether we interpret it as like your past life of Yeshua, of Jesus is coming forth here, which, by the way, I think that we all have a point where we're tapping into that timeline. And whether you think that you are an incarnation of Jesus, or you tapping into that storyline, the collective storyline, and it means something to you, I think it activates all of us in that way, whatever the literal interpretation of it is. But symbolically, I have watched you get activated over the course of the last years, your human Kai in search of what the truth is, and getting so lit up as you get to share and retell what's coming alive for you. Like you're in your Jesus phase, Guy. And it's really fun to be in your presence, because what's actually happening is you are going through the phase of the human evolution where we're stepping back into our Christic consciousness. It's coming online. It's becoming available to each one of us. And that's, in essence, the new earth, is when all 12 strands of DNA have come online for all of us. And so I would say that's the superpower that you're bringing into our collective group in Shasta this year, is the activation of the DNA. All 12 strands. Bring it.
Appreciate that. Yeah. And not long ago, but maybe 10 years ago now, there was a group of my fellow Eastern medicine practitioners, and we were all together, maybe like 8 or 10 of us that went to school, and we realized, and there was plant medicine involved, but we realized that there was essentially 2 types of us, right? More than half the group were just really good clinicians at seeing people and healing people, and they were happy with that. They had their martial arts practice and their meditation practice, and they were happy to just knock it out at the clinic and treat patient by patient. And I have tremendous respect for that. And then we had a realization that there were others of us who just weren't satisfied with one-on-one. We just knew we were built for one-to-many. And that little breakout group was like, how do we bring the principles of Eastern medicine to humanity? Because at its essence, and this is where I can acknowledge or own something about Christ consciousness, at its essence, Chinese medicine is a medicine for nourishing your destiny. How do the herbs and the breathing and the needles allow you to more fully live out your God blueprint? Because that's how the new earth emerges. And in that way, all of the teachers, because we know in Greek, the Christos means the anointed one. What are they anointed with? They're anointed with the understanding that we are all connected. That everything you can see, hear, and touch, and everything you can't see, hear, and touch is all created by one true creator. And if you know that in your bones, there is a different morality that emerges from you. And that's what every great avatar was teaching. And that's the culture that's still alive at Shasta in those drum circles. There's a true consciousness of love, of acceptance. There are guys driving up in $100,000 cars and suits, taking them off to get in the group. And there are people there that are probably homeless.
Yeah.
By choice. And they are all welcome around that fire and in that city. It truly is a different culture there. I cannot wait to take people there to step into. So I appreciate that reflection. And in that way, like some of my greatest discomfort is feeling like I'm not doing enough to change the planet at the rate and speed that the gifts are available to me to do so. That's the most painful thing, avoiding my calling.
Well, this year we have even more radical acceleration. We've talked about how powerful the astrology is. I just learned this. The nodes of destiny are also involved. And this the 19-year cycle is shifting and changing. So I know you got to go. Kai, thanks for being here and preaching to us this afternoon. We do have a couple spots left on this retreat, this adventure, this initiation. I'll be honest with you, though. I have phone calls scheduled with people all weekend who have been reaching out to me and say, hey, I want to talk to you about Shasta. So seriously, if you want to go, reach out to Kai or I right away, because the space is super limited at this point.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's going to be great, and next year we'll open up a few more spots, and then it's just going to keep evolving. But thank you so much, Emily. Thanks for sharing your personal journey.
Yep.
Thanks for always bringing that forward with all your other gifts and skills. Thanks for listening to me preach and share the gospel, the good word.
Amen. Amen. I love it.
That same guy, we came to the conclusion that he said the best translation of hallelujah is fuck yeah.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
So for the rest of it, we're going hallelujah. Fuck
yeah.
Yeah. So
good stuff. All right, I'll see you back here again real soon, buddy.
Yep.
We'll do some more practice,
Sherry, so good to see you and have you. Kevin, thanks for dropping in with us. Anybody else that's listening, we appreciate you guys.
Yep. All right. See you back here again soon, guys.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
Is greater cosmic mystery calling you? The mystery of your highest potential? But responsibility, stress, and EMF are distorting your vision. And the scariest thing is, during our depleted state, it's so easy to give up, to give in, and stay small. There's good news. At the Akashic Academy, we've dedicated ourselves to recovering wisdom that will help quantum visionaries, thought leaders, and difference makers thrive in the face of change. This August, come join me and the Ascended Masters in Mount Shasta for the Akashic Alchemy Immersion.
Why I went to Shasta. The Akashic Academy immersion at Mount Shasta represented a way for me to be able to work directly with Emily Harrison and a group of people like me that are looking at deepening both their wisdom and their intuition. The fact that Shasta is a mountain that's sacred to the indigenous people of North America and that it is known to have magnetic energy vortexes, that added to the mystery and the attraction of participating in the immersion. And what has happened since I got back from Shasta? I have been writing more, I have been writing better, and I've focused on developing more skills to coach effectively and empathetically. My intuition's improved. My focus on living a life of good health and acting on what is possible when I play big on my life's purposes has made life all that much more rewarding.
Why I went to Mount Shasta. I knew Shasta would be life-changing because of the potent energy there. I just needed to find the right tribe to go with. When I was in Shasta, I experienced unconditional love from within. I've built a whole company. I landed a TEDx talk. I have the ability to manifest at the drop of a hat because I tapped into the highest frequency in the vortex.